Hi. If you're just joining us, please type your name and your organization and location in the chat. And just a quick reminder, you can send your chat either to all the panelists, and that's to me, that'll only go to me and my colleagues, or you can send it to all panelists and attendees. That means everyone who's joining us on the webinar today will be able to see your chat. So go ahead and introduce yourself, your name, your organization. Let us know where you are Zooming in from. Okay, and another reminder as we're waiting for folks to join audio, you can enter your questions in the chat at any time throughout this webinar. So as you're introducing yourselves, it's a good practice to figure out where the chat box is. That's where you can do the most of your communication with us is through the chat. We're going to get started in just one more minute. And while we are waiting, I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll. If you all could take a second to fill it out, there's just two quick questions on there asking where did you first learn about this informational webinar and how did you register for this webinar? Your answers are totally optional, but it'll really help us figure out how to do communications better in the future. All right, thank you. Lots of answers are coming in already. Appreciate that. Thank you. And if you haven't already, please do introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you are Zooming in from and your organization and your name. And we're going to get started as soon as I end this poll. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. We got a lot of responses already. Wonderful. Okay. And just before we get into too far into the program today, I want just to remind you that we are in a Zoom webinar format, and that basically means that you are all muted, so you don't have to worry about background noise or anything like that. And we will be using the chat to communicate with each other and to ask questions. And we are recording this webinar, so if you need to reference anything in the future, or if you want to share the recording with a friend or colleague, we'll be able to send that to all of you by tomorrow, the recording of the webinar. Okay. And let's get started with some introductions. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anne Umali. I'm the Director of Professional Development at the North American Association for Environmental Education. And I'll be tag teaming today's webinar with my two colleagues here, who I will let them introduce themselves. And Judy, do you want to go first?
Sure. I was just answering a question in the chat. Hi, everyone. I'm Judy Browse, and I'm the Executive Director of NAAE, and so happy all of you are here. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm also so glad you're here. I'm Sarah Bodor, and I am the Director of Policy and Affiliate Relations. And I look forward to chatting with you about this fellowship.
Thank you, Judy and Sarah. And just so all of you out there know that Judy, Sarah, and myself, we are going to be your main contacts for throughout the entire fellowship, from the application process through all of the training over the course of the 18 months. So it's glad that you're seeing our faces now, because you will not stop seeing us for the duration of the fellowship. And we will be talking about the CEE-Change Fellowship today, Building Leadership in Civics and Environmental Education. This is an informational and informal webinar, so please come with any and all of your questions. We will be taking as many as we can in the hour that we've got together. And before I get into the agenda, I just want to thank Cedar Tree Foundation and EE360. We could not do this fellowship without generous support from EE360 and Cedar Tree Foundation. And in the next couple of slides, we'll get a little bit into more detail about what EE360 is. So stand by. Okay, so here's the agenda we've got for today. First, we're going to do a very high-level overview of the North American Association for Environmental Education and EE360. And then we're going to get into some more of the nitty-gritty details of the fellowship, including benefits to participation, eligibility criteria, and the online application. We'll have some time for Q&A at the very end, but like I said earlier, we'll be taking your questions throughout. So go ahead and jot them into the chat as you think of them. And as whoever's talking, my colleagues, Sarah, Judy, and Sam, we're all going to be answering them at the same time. So we will attempt to answer all of your questions throughout. Okay, so let us go ahead and get started with the overview of NAAEE. And I think, Judy, you're going to take this section.
Thanks, Anne. And again, hello to everybody. So glad that you can be here. And just wanted to let you all know it's NAAE's 50th anniversary. So we're very excited about that and hope that we will get to see you all as part of this fellowship or at our upcoming conference. But thanks for joining. And Anne, if you can go to the next slide. For those of you who don't know who we are, we like to say, in addition to being the professional association for the field, we're the champion of environmental education, we're the backbone organization for the field, and we do work with educators around the world in North America and beyond to really help strengthen environmental education and create a more just and sustainable future. And if you go to the next slide, please. Our actual vision is that if we do our work right with so many other partners around the world, we want to create a just and sustainable world where people are thinking about environmental and social responsibility with every choice they make, either individually, institutionally, or as a community. And that if we're keeping that in mind, we will get to where we want to go. And then our specific mission, if you go to the next slide, Anne, is using the power of education. We really are focused on advancing environmental literacy and civic engagement and how these two connect, which is what this fellowship is all about, to create a more equitable and sustainable future. And we can't do this work without working with partners throughout the world, other educators, policymakers, and so many different kinds of organizations. And we also serve a very broad audience. We work with formal and non-formal educators. If you go to the next slide, we work with NGOs, business, universities, government, and we also work from cradle to grave, we'd like to say, the earliest learners to our seniors and everything in between. On the next slide, the one thing I did want everybody to know, and I'll pass it on to Sarah in a second here, is that NAAEE is committed to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and everything that means for our own organization, for our network, and for the broader environmental and social movements that are going on. So you'll see that reflected in this fellowship. You'll see it reflected, hopefully, in everything that we do. And that's an important part of what we are trying to do by bringing environmental education together with civic engagement. We feel that the ultimate goal of environmental education is not only to create this equitable and sustainable future, but engage everybody in civic life. That is so important. So we do have a lot of partners around the world. And Sarah, I'm going to pass it on to you to talk more about our partners and EE360.
Great, thank you, Judy. As Judy mentioned, we do work with a lot of different partners from all around the world. And one of our sort of greatest strengths comes from our affiliates who together form a network across North America. These are state, regional, and provincial environmental education associations that operate very similarly to NAAEE, but just on a different scale. And this network collaborates to share learning and build capacity for the field of environmental education. And just to be clear, this is just a sampling of the logos from all of the organizations that operate across North America. And I would encourage you to connect with your affiliate. If you live in a state or province that has an EE association, they are a really tremendous asset for you if you're not already affiliated with them. Next slide. And another one of our greatest assets is our partnership with the EPA through a cooperative agreement that we have together called EE360. It's really a set of strategic initiatives that are packaged together in working in partnership with EPA to advance that vision of a just and sustainable world that Judy talked about. Next slide, Anne. And so the heart of EE360 is our mission to train a cadre of culturally diverse education professionals from all different walks of life, and really help to equip them with the knowledge and the skills and the tools that they need. And really, we focus on training educators through EE360 because of their potential to really exponentially reach even more significant numbers and even more diverse audiences. And we're so grateful, as Anne already mentioned, to have support through EE360 to make this fellowship happen. This is a brand new fellowship for us. And we're also really grateful and proud to have support from the Cedar Tree Foundation. And one of the things that we've really benefited from through both of these partners is their ability to provide not just funding to support this program, but also really have been thought partners with us in sort of the design and execution of this fellowship. So it's very exciting. So at the heart of what we're all about here today and what we want to try to explore through the CEE-Change Fellowship is this question here of how can we bring the fields of environmental education and civics education together? These two fields have a lot of things in common. They're both about driving change and driving systems change, but very importantly focused on engaging individuals in helping to drive that change. So if you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, these are some of the characteristics that sort of define each of these fields. And even though there are definitely some distinctions in particular sort of content areas in which each of these fields is focused, they have a lot in common as well. And there's a common thread through these about knowledge and skills to drive change and to drive action and participation. And as Judy mentioned, we can't really get to that just and sustainable world without both of these focal areas. We need people to engage in making a more environmentally sustainable world, but that also requires participation in our systems of government as well. We know that the action piece in both of these realms is sometimes the piece that's easiest to leave behind and just focus on the knowledge and skills. But if we can't get to that action piece, we're not going to achieve our vision. So I'm going to turn it back over to Anne, who's going to go into detail about how we're going to explore this big question with our first cohort of CEE-Change Fellows.
Thank you, Sarah and Judy. And we just gave you a very brief overview of our organization and a little bit about the philosophy behind why we're combining the fields of civic engagement and environmental education. And now I'm just going to take the next few minutes to explain the entire fellowship that we built to really take advantage of all the different opportunities for intersection that we can create. And so one really good way to think about this fellowship is through these four main categories. So the fellowship is entirely focused on providing opportunities to build your professional learning and your professional development as an environmental educator and a civics educator. And so we're really thinking about what are the skills that are necessary to be an amazing community engagement person, leader, and that involves a lot of different skills, including equity and inclusion skills, communication skills, and more. Another big chunk of this fellowship is the focus on peer-to-peer mentoring and networking. So we are really hoping that fellows are getting multiple opportunities to expand their peer and professional network. And we recognize that fellows that are coming into this fellowship come in with their own unique set of skills and experiences, and also have a tremendous amount of information and expertise to share with their peers. So we really want to build on that philosophy of peer-to-peer mentoring and networking throughout the 18 months. Additionally, we will be focusing on leadership training, recognizing that leaders really are not always born, but they are created, and there are specific skills that you can focus on to help build your leadership skills that are needed to support community engagement. And lastly, a big focus of this fellowship is on your community engagement project. And so that is giving fellows the opportunity to experiment with some brand new EE and civic engagement strategies in their work. So if you really want to think about high level overview of the fellowship, these are the main focus areas you should think about. Now I'm going to get into a little bit about the benefits of participation in this fellowship. That main benefit I mentioned earlier is all the different types of professional development and leadership training that you will get. And I've listed here a laundry list of different types of topics that we will be covering. For example, partnership building, participatory planning strategies, community engagement, mapping power, coalition building, design thinking, and so much more. What we are planning is that we've got a set curriculum for our Leadership Institute training, but we will also be doing a needs assessment so that we can really narrow down into the specific skills that each fellow needs as part of their work. So a huge benefit of becoming a fellow is all the different training and professional development you'll receive. Another benefit is this enhanced network of new CEE-Change fellows that will be now a part of your professional network. These are going to be leaders in civic education, environmental education, conservation, and so many other disciplines that you will now be able to count as your colleagues and friends. Another benefit is all the mentoring and networking opportunities that you'll have within the fellows cohort and beyond the entire NAAA network. Another benefit is this Leadership Institute that we are planning for July 12th to the 23rd. It's going to be entirely virtual, and that is an opportunity to get to know the other fellows in your cohort and to kick off your entire experience. After that Leadership Institute, we'll continue to have monthly virtual training webinars on key priority topics. Fellows also will be receiving scholarship funds to attend the annual NAAA conference. This year, that conference is virtual, and we'll learn more about that conference in a bit. Also, we will be having scholarship funds for fellows to attend a face-to-face follow-up training in summer of 2022. More benefits of becoming a fellow. There will be multiple opportunities to get professional development funds. So if you're finding that you've got specific training throughout, but you might have another conference you want to attend, or a class or a course you want to attend, or maybe you want to design a learning exchange with another fellow, you can apply for professional development funds to help offset the costs of that training. There will also be opportunities to apply for mini grant funds to implement your community action project. And these funds will be in the range of approximately $3,000 for a planning grant to up to $10,000 for a collaboration grant. And a collaboration grant is basically a grant that you design and implement in collaboration with one or more other fellows in your cohort. You'll also be getting individual and organizational recognition through our websites and social media channels. And there you will also have an opportunity to participate in a new toolkit for educators that are all working at this intersection of environmental education and civic and community engagement. So many benefits of becoming a fellow. And here on this slide, I get into some of the eligibility requirements to apply. And you'll see that our eligibility requirements are pretty straightforward, and by design, they're very simple. So in order to apply, you must have at least 5 years of experience in environmental education, civic engagement, or civic education, conservation, or community engagement. And these 5 years of experience are pretty broadly defined, and it can be paid or volunteer experience. It can be college coursework. So however you define that experience, most likely we will take that. Another eligibility requirement, and I think this question actually came up earlier in the chat from Christine. In order to apply for the fellowship, you do indeed need a partner organization. And a partner organization can be any EE360 partner, it can be an NAAA state affiliate, and it can be any other community or national organization whose goals and practices make a positive contribution to the field of civics or environmental education. So you'll see that it is a really broad definition. And I know there's folks in the chat that asked if their university can be a partner organization, and the answer is yes, but you do need a partner organization to apply. And then the last eligibility requirement I have on this list is that You must have a creative idea or a vision for a community action project that addresses a civic and an environmental issue. And fellows will use the fellowship experience to build on this vision. And I think there was another question from Christine in the chat asking if this project has to be something brand new or something in progress. And the answer is yes. It can be either a totally brand new idea that you've got or that really works at that intersection of civics and environmental education, or it can be an ongoing project. If it is an ongoing project, we just want you in your application to describe how participation in the fellowship will add a new twist or help you reach a new audience or add some new strategy to ongoing work. So while yes, it can be ongoing work or continuous work, we do want to better understand how you'll use the fellowship to enhance the current work that you're doing. And it can also be a brand new idea that you want to experiment with.
And can I interrupt for a second? We have a question from Z about, and I just want everybody to hear it, that can a partner organization be a collective? And that's fine, but I wanted you to answer for everyone.
Yes. So, I see the question now. Thank you, Judy. Yes, the partner organization can be a collective. Absolutely. So thank you for chiming in there, Judy. And I just wanted to double check and see if there were any other questions about eligibility requirements before we move on. Okay, I don't think there are. I do see there's a question from Siobhan about if it's possible to get an example of some community action projects. And one good way for you all to do that is to check out our website, the same place where you saw all the information about the CEE-Change Fellowship Program. There's a section towards the bottom of the page that says check out our EE360 Community EE Fellows from 2018. If you click that button, you'll see the profiles and project descriptions and bios of all of the fellows from our 2018 class. Jen Page, who's here today, is actually part of that class, and she can tell you, give you some more examples too. So if you want to just take a few minutes and peruse those bios, read about their projects, it'll give you a little bit, it'll give you a sense of the wide variety of projects that we funded and the fellows that we supported last time. But do know that this is a brand new fellowship for us. So while those projects did occur in 2018, we are going to be having a stronger focus on civic engagements and civics and action civics in this new fellowship. But that link should be helpful for you. And thank you, Sarah, for putting that link directly in the chat. Thanks. Thank you for that. Okay. So for this next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the requirements that are involved in the fellowship. I think you all know that it is 18 months long. It's a year and a half. And the first requirement is that you take part in all networking and training opportunities during the 18-month fellowship. And the big chunks of that training will be mostly the Virtual Leadership Institute that's going to happen in July, entirely online. And we will be working with you to select the best timing for that, but more than likely it will be on just 2 days during those 2 weeks, approximately 8 to 10 hours live synchronous training each week. The other part of that, the other requirement is to attend the 50th annual NAAA conference. It is virtual, so hopefully attendance at that will be a little bit easier for you. And then the other requirement is to attend the in-person follow-up training next summer 2022. Another requirement is that you design a community action project using all the different innovative civics and EE strategies, reaching at least 100 people through your project. You'll have to complete some midterm and final progress reports and other evaluation activities, and you'll be completing a community action plan and fundraising strategy just to explain how you plan to raise the support necessary to implement the plan. I know it kind of looks like a lot of requirements on this list, but know that we will help you along the way. How do you create a fundraising strategy, for example? And how do you create a community action plan? You will not be alone in completing all of these requirements. And I'm just going to pause before I move on to see if there's any other questions that Judy or Sarah saw here. Are we seeing anything, Sarah, Judy, that we should answer now?
Nope, I think we've got everybody covered so far, but keep your questions coming.
Okay, thanks, Judy. So in this next slide, just want to let you all know how to apply. So the entire application is online. You can get to the link on our website. If you found today's webinar, that means you're able to find the online application because it's on the same exact page. And so the online application is broken down into these 5 main areas. We first ask some personal information. We ask some questions around your professional and leadership experience. You submit and upload a resume. And then the bulk of your application is spent describing the community action project that you aim to implement. And then the last section is giving you an opportunity to submit professional reference letter and a partner letter describing support for you as a fellow, if accepted. And then there's a final question asking about what specific professional development opportunities are you seeking, and also asking about your own expertise and background, asking you about what specific skills are you able to share with your fellows. And that's the entirety of the online application. Okay, one last thing about applications. If you applied for the EE360 Community EE Fellowship Program in 2020, you know that we had to postpone everything because of cancellations and COVID. So we paused all of our in-person training opportunities. However, if you did apply in 2020, you can reapply for this new fellowship, and we're trying to make it easier for you to apply for this new round. We're asking you to review the current online application, and you'll see that the applications are very, very similar to the application questions you got last time. And you can update your application to include any new professional experiences you had from the last year so that your application is updated. And we will still use your 2020 recommendation letters and your resume, unless you want to update your resume. Okay. And I believe that is all the content we've got planned for today. The applications are due a week from today, May 17th. We can get to more questions. If you've got them, please put them in the chat. You can send an email to this email that's on the screen. But let's go ahead and take a few more questions if there are any new ones. Judy and Sarah, what do you think?
And Anne, I just wanted to mention that one of the things that people have told us is most valuable about this fellowship program is the networking and the learning, of course, but people have developed lifelong colleagues and friends because it is an opportunity to learn together, grow together, share together, and that's been a really positive part of the whole fellowship. There is another question that has come in from Z again, and I think it was, in order to receive a partnership grant, can it be with more than one person? And that, I think, is for the grant in the, if they apply for a grant, can it go to more than one person, and is 10,000 the max? So if you want to answer it, Anne, go ahead, or go ahead.
I'm not sure what that means, if it can it be more than one person? So I guess just to answer quickly, we will have a specific amount of funds for fellows to apply for these mini grants. And depending on how many fellows apply, so for example, not all 40 might need funding and not all 40 will apply, but depending on how many apply, that will determine how many awards we'll be able to give. So, and the approximation is roughly 3,000 for up to 10, and 10,000 is the max if you are going to partner with another fellow to apply for a collaboration grant.
And just to back up, we will be doing some fundraising webinar support so that We're hoping that you could leverage whatever money you either get as a grant or you're trying to raise for your own projects, because as many of you know, in order to be in the nonprofit world, raising funds and presenting your case is really, really important.
Yes.
And is there a blank application on the website that you can download to see all the questions? I think we put one in, right?
No, there is not, but that is
Oh,
a good idea. However, you can start an online application just to view. You're not committed to filling it out, but if you hit that button about what's to start your application now, you can access all of the application questions. But if folks think it will be
yep.
helpful, we can also add like a Word document of all the questions so that you can see the questions before you even start your online application. So we can absolutely do that. Give me a day and I'll have that up on our website tomorrow.
And Anne, just in case someone's not able to see the chat, there was a question about how many fellows we hope to accept. And I answered it in the chat, but I wanted to verbally say that we are looking at accepting up to 40 fellows to participate. So it'll be a big cohort.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
it'll be big.
And a great cohort. And BB asked about reference letters and organizational partner letters. You need to get those as part of your application process, BB, not after you've been selected. But hopefully it won't be hard. Or you can tell us when it's coming shortly if you're having trouble contacting your reference.
That's right. Thanks, Judy.
And there's a great testimonial in the chat from Jen as well.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Jen,
Thank you,
for being here.
Jen.
Jen is amazing. And yes, Danielle suggested that you can save a draft and make changes to your application later, and that's correct. You can keep making changes up until the May 17th due date. Okay, I'm scrolling through the chat to see if there are any other questions that we missed. Sarah or Judy, did you see anything else?
There's a question, is the application open to anyone regardless of where they are located?
I just saw that question from Sol. So Sol, all fellows, in order to be eligible to apply, you have to live in North America. So the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the US territories. So I hope that answers your question.
And you can let us know too. We always find that it's really exciting to have an international participation. So we'd love to get more help, support from Mexico and Canada. But if you have other fellows that are interested, it's always good for us to know where there's interest. And we always are trying to raise additional funding. And Z, glad you're going to apply.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not going to let any of you off until you finish your application right now.
So if you did register for today's webinar, that means we have your names and email addresses, and we will send you some reminders. But honestly, feel free to reach out to myself, to Sarah, to Judy. You can reach us through this email address here or ann@nwaae.org. You can call me. I've been doing lots of phone calls. If people have questions about ideas for a community action project, I'm available, and we are here to support you and answer all your questions.
And I just wanted to introduce Sam, if you want to turn on your video for a minute, Sam. Sam is our newest NAA staff member and helping us with so many things, including this fellowship program. He's a star communications person, and we are so lucky to have him on board. So you'll be seeing more of Sam as well as you apply for a fellowship and get involved with NAAE.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. And it's nice to see all of you here today.
Okay, anything else
We had a question from, is it Sagun or Sagun? I'm trying to think how to pronounce your name, who's from Nigeria. If you're here in the States, then yes, you can apply. It's just that because it is partly EPA funding, it is North America specific because it's a government foundation. I mean, a government support for this fellowship.
Okay, last chance to get your questions in. Okay, any final thoughts from Sarah, from Judy, before we close today?
Just excited to read about all of these project proposals.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is really an opportunity for both the field of environmental education and civic engagement on how we can work better together to engage people. So you would be part of kind of some groundbreaking work in how we can influence both fields and also your own work, but also the broader field. So this really could be one of the most powerful fellowships we've developed because of the potential and the need for more civic engagement in our environmental education work and more environmental education in our civic work. So really excited about that.
All right, well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to end today's webinar with an invitation to join EE Pro. If you haven't already, it's a wonderful spot to seek additional professional development opportunities, no matter where you live. Even if you decide not to apply for the fellowship, this is a great source of connection to resources, to learning opportunities. Sign up for EE Pro. You'll get it all in one spot. And that is all I've got here. And we're just looking forward to getting your applications, and please do reach out if you think of any questions in the meantime. So take care, everyone. Oh, yes, Sam.
There was one more question really quick.
Okay.
Do you all accept supplemental materials when applying?
Oh, I saw that from Z. So Z, I think the best way to include supplemental materials is to include that as part of your resume. So if you have links to any online portfolios or YouTube videos or anything like that, you can include that in your resume upload. That might be the easiest way to do that. Okay, no more questions. Final call. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us, and hope to get all of your applications in the next week. Take care and reach out if you think of any other questions.
Thanks so much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.